It's funny. You mentioned him growing, Bryce growing at the same time, and I like to if the opportunity is presented for us to see something that kind of marks the moment of growth. I love when those opportunities present themselves, right? And so
Yeah.
I feel like this. Like I want to show you something real quick. So I feel like this was kind of that moment. Like this was fourth and third or third and 13, I would say, against the Saints. And we went on a
Yeah.
fourth, the drive to kind of win the game in the fourth quarter or whatever. But like when Bryce is walking off the sideline right here, like you can see like there's visible frustration about the play call right now.
Yeah.
Granted, we don't know exactly what was said, but I feel like I had this philosophy of like, yo, this was the moment when Bryce was finally like, you know what, man? Like you got people telling me that they don't want me. I wasn't the guy that they wanted to draft. I don't know if the coach really likes me. There's kind of back and forth in the media about whether or not I'm starting this and that. I'm tired of it. I'm gonna let my emotions show. I had read an
Yeah.
article where Bryce was talking about how his dad, like, and this was back at modern day, how he used to be like really high strung, right? And his dad's like a therapist or something like that, right? And he like
Yeah.
kind of calmed him down and helped him to be able to relegate his emotions so that he don't get too high or too low. And you kind of see a lot of that at play right now. But like this to me was that moment where things really started to change. And then ironically, he goes on a tear, after that. It doesn't result in wins for us. But like I felt like this was kind of a watershed moment. Like, what do you think about that?
No, I agree. I think this was because I think we were in like a Miles Sanders screen or something like before.
Mm-hmm. It was some BS. Yeah. Yeah.
If you're not gonna trust me, like at least try give me a chance,
Yeah.
like don't and it felt like it was more like take the training wheels off type of thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's third down. We're up 1 point. I mean, it's a turning point in the game. I can't remember the whole game flow at that point. I know the defense had their moments. But I do remember it was like a Miles Sanders screen or something. It was something weak on third and long that
Yeah.
we didn't even try to challenge the sticks. And so Bryce was frustrated. And I agree. I think that was the time where he kind of finally pushed back.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a ton of that from Bryce because I mean we've seen him slamming the flat screen and stuff like that, I mean the iPad and stuff like that. But we've never really seen visibly like frustration with coaches or even teammates or
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But like you said, this was kind of like not unbuttoned Bryce, but he kind of stays buttoned up in the media and stuff.
He
I'll say
does.
that.
Yeah.
This is kind of that. This is kind of like him, like coach, come on, man. Like we it's third down, man. Like let me throw the ball, like cut me loose
Yeah.
type of stuff like that. And just finally pushing back because head coach, I mean, not even just from a head coach perspective, but quarterback and play caller, man, that's a relationship that you have to be able to trust each other.
Yeah.
And I've seen the difference now from that moment there to like the Chiefs game or even whenever
Mm-hmm.
where it's third and short, we throwing the ball down the field.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And like
Mm-hmm.
these aren't slouches we playing against. And I
Right.
tweeted it out. I was like, I was because I was at the game for that Chiefs game. And I was like, it's really felt like Canales has put the ball in Bryce's hands
Mm-hmm.
and just like say, here. Whether it was like, I trust you or like, let's see what you got type of
Yeah.
energy. Either way, I think Bryce gained a lot of trust and like clout with Canales there. And I think that's been a big moment for them as they've grown over these last few games, man. So
Mm-hmm.
I,
I would
I
agree.
I I agree with you though. That was a turning point in my opinion.
Yeah. And here's what's interesting, man. You talked about how he built like you build up that capital. I remember he was in the press conference after that game. Hey, Bryce is making the statement himself. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't have to
Mhm.
make we don't even have to tell you whether or not he's starting or not. Like he's making his own statement, right? But like you go
Yeah.
to the Philly game and like the drive before the drive, if you want to call it that, right? But
Yeah.
the get drop. Man, we went like three straight, like run, pass, run, or a screen, run. And it was just like, come on, man. Like, do you trust him or not? You know what I'm saying? Like, let him
Yeah.
rip it. Like, he's showing you. I mean, when people tell me, like, Dunk, when they say, like, man, what did we see last year that kind of gave you any kind of, belief that he could do any of this? Man, Bryce, on a couple of occasions in multiple games, had like humongous third and fourth downs that he would convert. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, like nothing's happening
Yeah.
between first and fourth, but like on fourth and 12, you convert. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like in the biggest moments where there's the most pressure, that's when he performs the best, you know?
Yep.
And I almost wonder, like, psychologically, if like part of this, because a lot of times they say like what happens in the press conferences and what's said in the media, like they're really talking to a player. And I wonder sometimes if like this is Dave's way of like, because I know that people say like, Bryce ain't really been under no kind of pressure. I'm like, come on, man. He was the first black quarterback in the history of modern days high school, right? He played for Nick
Mhm.
Saban and Bill O'Brien. How much
Yeah.
more pressure do you need, right? But
Yeah.
maybe Dave Canales is like simulating this because, Dave is very much a player's guy, right? So maybe there's a bit of like, hey, I'm going to say this stuff in the media because I'm going to press on you, bro. Like, I want you to know, like, hey, I can replace you. So, like, if I keep that edge on you, then maybe you'll play up to par. Maybe you feel kind of like you've arrived because you got picked first overall over somebody who they felt like should have been the pick, right? And it's like, maybe we need to press on that a little bit. What you think?
No, if you're an optimist, that's a very fair point to do. I wouldn't agree with those coaching methods, but it's hard for me to argue with the results. And I push back on somebody else. You talked about it a little bit earlier about what was the plan after benching. I can't just go out there and give. If he was like, because I think the question was, who do you give credit for Bryce's turnaround? I was like, I give the credit to Bryce.
Exactly.
The coach, because he took the coaching and behind closed doors. I don't know exactly what was happening, but at the same time, it didn't seem like he really had any desire to get Bryce back in there. If it wasn't for whatever accident that happened with the Elon Musk Tesla that Andy wrecked, we don't know when we would have seen.
Right.
We don't know when we would have seen, because he was like, he just said it. I was really rooting for Andy to get healthy and this, that.
Sure did. Yeah.
I don't really think they had a plan. I think it forced their hand. And like you said, when he said that Bryce is making the statement for himself, it was to the point that, like, we have no choice. And maybe he already had his mind made up. He wanted to move on.
Yeah.
But then we hear reports about Dan Morgan going to him and be like, hey, man, outside your parents, nobody believing in you more than me. And so that makes you feel good. But they don't say nothing about how Dave Canales felt, because Dave wasn't here when they drafted him last
year.
That's
right.
So
and,
I'm not sure Dave went completely out on him,
Bro.
And they just got their hand forced. And now it's like, okay, you the coach. We've seen the highs from this dude. Make it work. Make it work. You the whisperer. Make it work.
Yeah. Don't just be the whisperer for a retread. Like, this ain't Michelin. We ain't, recycling tires. Like, nope. We got you a new set of breadstones. You know what I'm saying? Like,